When I did my graduate studies at the Middle East Institute at Columbia University's School of International Affairs, I took many courses on the question of the Middle East conflict. Semester after semester, we studied the Middle East conflict as if it was the most complex conflict in the world, when in fact, it is probably the easiest conflict in the world to explain. It may be the hardest to solve, but it is the easiest to explain. In a nutshell, it's this. One side wants the other side dead. Israel wants to exist as a Jewish state and to live in peace. Israel also recognizes the right of Palestinians to have their own state and to live in peace. The problem, however, is that most Palestinians and many other Muslims and Arabs do not recognize the right of the Jewish state of Israel to exist.
That voice that you just heard was Dennis Prager, who I believe is the, dean, provost. I'm not quite sure what his title is. Yeah, he's the chancellor of Prager University, which bears his name. Giving us some facts about the conflict in the Middle East. And I know it's not auspicious for our first day at the U, but would you believe that that's not entirely accurate?
What the Middle East conflict is the explanation is that one side wants the other side dead.
Yeah, well, it turns out
there's more to it.
I think there might actually be more to it. I actually just saw earlier today, saw Eric Levitz post this, that some graphs from opinion polls, which are a good way of finding out what people actually want. So here's one for Palestinians who are giving their preferred solution to the conflict. 33% say two-state, 8% say single democratic state, 12% say one state without equal rights for Jews, and then 47% are not sure.
Well, there you go, Ben. 12% say they don't want equal rights for Jews. I hope there's not another pie chart coming.
This is the pie chart for Israeli Jews, where two-state is 34%. That's about the same. One democratic state is 10%. So again, very comparable to the Palestinian number. And one state without equal rights for Palestinians is 29%, which is well over twice the percentage for Palestinians advocated the reverse, which I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't have my own university. So, I mean, I hesitate to question his command of the facts here, but I think Dennis might be wrong about this.
You could have your own university, because one thing I've learned from Prager University is that the way you establish a university is to say, I am now, from this moment onward, a university. So if you wanted to have Burgis University, it would be equally legitimate.
Could you imagine basically saying, I did my grad work at Columbia, and then I did my post grad work at myself at my own university,
at the Burgess Institute.
Yeah,
Burgess Institute.
Yeah, I was at for philosophy, and then I was at Burgess for everything. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we are going to be talking much more very shortly about Prager University because Current Affairs just put out a booklet. I think we have a graphic called yeah, there we go. Nathan is holding it up.
Resisting PragerU propaganda.
Yeah. So yes, the Student's Guide to Resisting PragerU Propaganda. Let's take a look at one of the first PragerU videos you highlight in your booklet. So this is about fossil fuels.
Oh yeah. The world needs more fossil fuels, more oil, coal, and natural gas, not less. Does that sound crazy? It's actually not. Not if you employ one common sense principle. It's the same principle you use when you decide whether to take a prescription drug. Carefully weigh the benefits and the negative side effects. If the benefits of using fossil fuels outweigh the negative side effects, then we should keep using fossil fuels. If the negative side effects outweigh the benefits, then we should stop using fossil fuels as soon as possible. Which is it? It turns out that the benefits of fossil fuels far outweigh the negative side effects. The reason that most so-called experts, including many climate scientists, are against fossil fuels is that they violate this principle. They ignore the benefits of fossil fuels while overstating their negative side effects. To know the truth about the benefits and side effects of fossil fuels, you need to understand 8 essential facts. Fact 1. Cost-effective energy is essential to human flourishing. This is almost never discussed, but no one can dispute it. Low-cost, reliable, versatile energy makes modern life possible. There's a simple reason for this. Energy powers the machines that allow us to be productive and prosperous, from the combine harvesters that allow one farm worker to do the work of 1,000, to the incubators that save the lives of millions of premature babies. Everything depends on energy. Thanks to the unprecedented availability of cost-effective energy, overwhelmingly fossil fuel energy,
Hey, can we pause this for a second?
better place for human life. Crazy? It's actually
So we can, before we watch the rest of this, I do just want to note this is something you point out in your pamphlet, Nathan, the that like really insidious example about the incubators.
The incubators.
Yeah.
Babies would die.
Yeah, I mean that's
That's essentially what it's suggesting.
Exactly.
Environmentalists want to let babies die.
Yeah.
Does that sound crazy? It's not.
The other thing too is like you know, I don't want to like judge the guy's face because he's born with that, but he looks like a straight out of central casting of like a 1990s Highlander villain.
He looks like the devil, but
He's a scary looking guy.
Yeah, I mean, like this is not the person I want to have speaking for it because, like, I honestly think he's coming after Duncan MacLeod because Duncan MacLeod wronged him in like 1872.
But yeah, is there a reason that those things can't be made on clean energy? Is he gonna explain
No,
that?
no. That's not going to be addressed. In fact, he's going to tell you that you should do a cost-benefit analysis, and then he's only going to look at the benefits of fossil fuels and not discuss any of the costs.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea that this is, look, I mean, if the only energy source we could use to power incubators is fossil fuels, you know, that's really bad news about the future because even aside from climate change, would you believe that there's not an infinite supply of fossil fuels?
I do forget about that sometimes, and then you keep mentioning it. It is easy to forget about that fact. When are we going to run out?
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're gonna fucking find out.
You know, unless we transition away from before we get to that point. Yeah, I mean, I know that's like a matter of speculation, you know, peak oil and all that, but like I think just about everybody agrees that, you know, this is you know, this is a non-renewable resource. You know, there is a finite amount of this. So, if human flourishing, incubators, etc., all require that, that is a grim vision of the future. All right, let's keep watching.
I went back accidentally a little bit, so I'm going to try to. We were just finishing up the intro, right?
Yeah.
Or no, we're in cost effective.
Effective one.
Yeah. Does that sound crazy? I remember we were on that.
Fact 1. Cost-effective energy is essential to human flourishing.
We did that.
This is almost never percent in 1980 to less than that earn less than $2 per day.
Oh no, you gotta find this
overwhelmingly fossil fuel.
There's the wonderful. I forget whether this video has the chart that shows that fossil fuel use and like all good things.
Yeah. Okay.
Have a high, strong correlation.
Okay. Save the lives of millions of premature babies. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Everything depends on energy. Thanks to the unprecedented availability of cost-effective energy, overwhelmingly fossil fuel energy, the world has never been a better place for human life. Life expectancy has risen sharply, and extreme poverty, those that earn less than $2 per day, has plummeted from 42% in 1980 to less than 10% today. Fact 2. billions of people are suffering and dying for lack of energy. Most of us take cost-effective energy for granted, but much of the world doesn't have that luxury. 3 billion individuals use less electricity per year than a typical American refrigerator. Most of them must use wood and animal dung to heat their homes and cook their food. To flourish, these people need far more energy. Fact 3. Fossil fuels are uniquely cost-effective. 80% of the world's energy comes from fossil fuels. And fossil fuel use is still growing. The reason? Nothing else can provide billions of people in thousands of places with low-cost, reliable, versatile energy. Unreliable solar and wind can't come close. They only provide electricity, which is just 1/5 of the world's energy use. And because solar and wind can go to near zero at any time, they depend on 24/7 backup from reliable power plants, usually powered by fossil fuels. Fact 4. Fossil fuel energy neutralizes climate danger. Climate disaster deaths are down 98% over the last century. How did this happen? Much of the credit goes to fossil fuels. They power the machinery that helps us construct sturdy buildings, the heating and air conditioning systems that protect us from extreme temperatures, and the irrigation and transportation systems that alleviate drought. Fact 5. Global warming has been mild and manageable. While we're told that the warming we've experienced is rapid and overwhelming, the world has warmed just 1 degree Celsius, 2 degrees Fahrenheit, since widespread fossil fuel use and CO2 emissions began in the 1800s. And because CO2 is actually plant food, more CO2 has led to significant global greening. That means more trees, more plants, more food. Fact 6. Warmer temperatures will save lives. While the media portray a future devastated by heat-related death, the truth is that far more people die from cold than from heat. Further, mainstream climate science says that warming will be concentrated in colder places, northern latitudes, at colder times, at night, and during colder seasons. This is good news. It means fewer people will die from cold in the coldest places. Fact 7. The greenhouse effect is a diminishing phenomenon. As we're so often told, the greenhouse effect means that the more CO2 in the atmosphere, the warmer the climate. But that's not the full story. As CO2 levels rise, warming slows down and levels off. This is mainstream climate science, but it's rarely communicated to the general public because it contradicts the climate catastrophe narrative. Fact 8. Projected climate impacts can be managed with fossil fuels. The most plausible threat of a warming climate is a rapid rise in sea levels because our coastal infrastructure was built around modern sea levels. But even extreme UN projections put that rise at 3 feet over the next 100 years. That's hardly something to panic over. A good part of the Netherlands is below sea level, including its international airport. The technology the Dutch use to keep the sea at bay is available to any country that needs it. Let's return to our original principle. Carefully weigh the benefits and the negative side effects. If we do this for fossil fuels, the balance is incredibly positive. So do what you would do if fossil fuels were a prescription drug. Take the pill. I'm Alex Epstein, author of Fossil Future for Prager University.
All right. Well, I think the nicest thing I can say about that is that he's still not my least favorite person with that surname.
Yeah, and he's pro-vax, give him some credit there, trust pharma, he says.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, take the pill is something that Prager. But to your point, that was actually, especially for a teenager or a child, it's pretty slick, right, Nathan? It's not as well, to us it's laughable, I think, or to most people in the
it's laughable if you're able to understand where the sleights of hand in the reasoning go. If you're trained in critical thinking, you can laugh at it. But until you're trained in critical thinking, they do a lot of things very, very cleverly, right? So they have all the graphics, they have statistics, they say fact, 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 fact. they say things like, this is mainstream climate science, but it's often not discussed. They have, each video has a sources page, but a long list of sources, and oftentimes they are fairly mainstream sources. I actually think it can be quite difficult to spot what the problems are in the analysis unless you're really pretty familiar with the science of climate change. I just think it sounds very persuasive.
Yeah. This is, like the fact, like that one sentence in there was the only thing about alternative energy sources in the entire, I mean, I guess unless you're going to count the stuff about the dung heaps, the one line about wind and solar being unreliable was all you got, right?
The sun sets. Checkmate, liberal.
Well, they also said that it only accounts for 20% of all energy. But that's a choice that we don't allow it to account for more. But they were using that as a fact that it only can account for 20%, right? I thought that was the sleight of hand there, where they're saying like we can't rely on wind and solar. Well, there's one thing to what you were saying, Ben, of like, oh, they basically they need fossil fuels to be backed up, which is that's just a question of objective fact or not. But I thought there was also a slickness there of saying, well, they only account for 20% of all energy on Earth. So how's that going to work?
Or fossil fuels are cheaper, right? When the entire point of the research and development work that is going on renewable energy is to try and make wind and solar. And in fact, it has been succeeding with solar, which is now cheaper, right? Is to make these sources that don't destroy the planet, right, and that don't have the costs that fossil fuels have, more cost effective than fossil fuels.
Yeah, and again, I mean, this is like if you were just watching this, you would get the impression that people who are more concerned about climate change than anybody at PragerU is just want to people to figure it out, right? It's like I don't know, see if you can burn a dung heap and whatever, like we'll just use the existing wind and solar infrastructure and nothing new, as opposed to, for example, doing like a massive Green New Deal to convert the existing energy infrastructure and, by the way, create millions of high-paying jobs in the process. So we talked about fact number one: cost-effective energy is essential to human flourishing. Hope not. Well, I mean, hope that's fine, but hope it's not just fossil fuels. 2 billions of people are suffering and dying for lack of energy. So both of those rely on 3, which is fossil fuels are uniquely cost effective, or else they're just irrelevant to the argument that's being made. But really, so I think that fact number 3, fossil fuels are uniquely cost effective, as Nathan said, I mean, just kind of treats that as static and ignores progress that's already been made towards making alternate energy more cost effective, and the very active ongoing research and development work. But really, the real whopper is number 4, fossil fuel energy neutralizes climate danger.
Because air conditioning.
Oh, right. So they didn't really mention right, they said they were going to mention the downside, but they actually didn't, because they said that the downside, maybe the heating and maybe the water's rising, right? I guess they're acting as if that's a downside, but they were, like you said, like if you don't really know about climate science, and I don't claim to be an expert, but they're saying that the only difference, right, other than the water's rising, is that the temperature will be 2 degrees warmer, which taken in isolation, right, probably on any given day, if it was 2 degrees hotter outside, it would probably be fine. I think that's what they're relying on you thinking, I think. But the consequences of that, which is what climate experts talk about, is actually a lot more severe than just, oh, it's a little warmer today or whatever. They just want you to focus on extreme heat. So they're like, well, if it's 100 degrees, then it'll be 102, which is kind of bad. But the places where it was negative 20, it'll be negative 18. So it's actually going to be good. But I think that leaving
dying
a
in a wildfire, that doesn't really come into it, or a drought, or all the people who were falling over in the heat in Phoenix this summer, or actually right here in New Orleans, we have a climate catastrophe right now because the total lack of rainfall across the country has caused salt water to creep up the Mississippi, and the whole New Orleans drinking water supply has just been imperiled.
Yeah, I mean, the wildfire example you just mentioned. I mean, the fact that it's gotten quite this routine for big parts of Southern California to be abruptly become uninhabitable, seems maybe not. And I think that when you say, oh, a couple degrees, a few feet of seawater, whatever, man, build some dikes, it's fine. As you point out in the booklet, when you start talking about the sheer, you don't have to make very much of the earth that's currently habitable uninhabitable. You would be amazed at how little of it you need to make uninhabitable before you have a refugee crisis at a scale that the world has never known before. And it should not take a lot of creativity to see how that could have catastrophic human consequences.
I noticed that refugee crisis didn't have any place in his cost-benefit analysis, which you would think, if we were doing a cost-benefit analysis, would go into the list of costs, maybe.
Yeah, one would think. You want to do Scandinavia?
Yeah, let's pull that up. Let's see if it's basically that meme of the two wrestlers fighting or whatever. If it's Scandinavia, let's just do that, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Venezuela, where I was born and still have family, bad. Cuba, bad. Zimbabwe, bad. Soviet Union, bad.
Okay, hold on. Let's pause.
Bad. Sweden, Denmark, Norway.
Okay, I just, I got a lot of complex information about geopolitics just now, and I really want to make sure I've processed and internalized it all properly, right? So just to review, Cuba, bad. Okay. All right.
Bad.
All right. Yeah. No, I mean, this is.
You've learned a lot already, I feel.
Yeah, you take everything you could say about a complex society that has, 2023 has spent, 6 decades accumulating this track record of both real achievements or real defects, and it's this really is a good university. You could boil that down to the single syllable bad.
I think we've earned several credit hours
just in this opening,
just at PragerU, just through that.
Imagine the test where it's just you have to. It's a mix and match of good and bad in different countries, and you have to draw a line.
Yeah.
Also,
China, bad.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I've got it now. I'm good.
Not to be, not. I'm actually not
Sure.
Who says you can't criticize China, but
sure, of course.
They were talking about that huge decrease in global poverty, right? As in a lot of that happening maybe in places where they would just label it as bad, and the decreases in global the last video.
People constantly say whenever they want to play up how amazing capitalism is, they talk about the number, the sheer number of people in the world who've been lifted out of the most extreme poverty in the last few decades, and anytime you actually look at anybody breaking down those numbers in detail, by far the largest portion of those people live in China. And, again, I think you should absolutely criticize China. China is a wildly economically egalitarian society, lots of poverty, even if the numbers for the most extreme kind of poverty are, have gotten better, lots of billionaires, lots of, authoritarian features to that society that I don't like. But like, again, I'm just in awe of thinking that it's like China, that country where 1 billion people live, that has undergone all kinds of incredibly complicated changes over the last several decades. What one word can we use to represent everything there is to say about the nation of China? Bad.
Well, let's see if they complicate this picture for us. Maybe we're not being fair.
Good. This is the socialist report card as it currently stands. Never mind that Venezuela, Cuba, Zimbabwe, the Soviet Union, Mao's China were once good. Once they go bad, they stay bad and are quickly forgotten, lost down the memory hole. But those Nordic paradises, they never let you down. Whenever Bernie, the squad, and the growing horde of democratic socialists ever get cornered, there's always, like Denmark, to come to the rescue. No, we don't want anything like what's going on in Venezuela. Denmark is what we have in mind. Except they don't. And it's time we all figured this out before it's too late. Here's what you need to know about Scandinavian countries. They are capitalists in wealth creation and socialists in wealth distribution. They have low corporate taxes, around 20%, no higher than in America. Unlike America, neither Norway nor Sweden nor Denmark has a government-set minimum wage. Most make it very easy to start a new business. Most have private health care and education.
Sorry, there's just been too much of that part we just watched. This really is like a greatest hits reel of all the dumb shit that right wingers say about this. If you're gonna say that Denmark, Norway, and Sweden are capitalist in wealth, wealth creation and socialist in distribution, where else is? Venezuela. In fact, like Norway and Venezuela are pretty good one-to-one comparison, because in both cases, the biggest part of their publicly owned sector is the oil company. In fact, the oil companies have similar structures where it's like a corporation, but it's largely, in government hands. As a matter of fact, not only is the public sector much bigger in Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, Finland, all these places than it is in Venezuela, the public sector in France is bigger than it is in Venezuela, right? So if Venezuela is socialist in wealth creation and the conceptual grammar of this video, then France is more socialist in wealth creation, and Norway and Denmark and Sweden are off the charts socialist in wealth creation. I mean, you can't have it both ways. I mean, this is what I was pushing John Miltimore about in that debate earlier this year in Texas. It's like, I just want to know what definition you're using. Tell me the definition, and then we can apply it. Because what possible definition is going to make Venezuela more socialist, if you want to talk that way, than the Nordics? And the no minimum wage thing is just there's sectoral bargaining, right? It's like, yes, there isn't a single federal minimum wage, but I mean,
you got such powerful unions that you don't even need a minimum wage.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like when you say no minimum wage, that gives people the impression that they just like let the chips fall where they may in a free market. That it's just employers can pay whatever individuals are willing to work for. Not that you have super powerful unions that negotiate wage levels for entire sectors of the economy.
I tell you what, we should just say to them, we will happily trade our minimum wage for their union density.
Yeah, exactly. So, like the wage floor is still set externally to like individual, like what individual employees are willing to work for. It's just, by organized labor, not the government. That's incredibly misleading. Also, this private healthcare, private education thing, it's like, I'm pretty sure, well, one, like, I think they're being very careful about the wording. You know, that mostly they have this. It's like Finland famously.
Options. You see that? Options.
Yeah. Most have private healthcare and education options. It's like, okay, and is most of the healthcare and education in these places provided by that option or by the other option? Like, even where there are the options, I mean, Finland famously doesn't have private schools, and it's, you know, by like many, you know, you can kind of have like independently organized schools. They have to have exactly the same curriculum. Like, they basically don't have private schools. You know, you can't charge tuition, like, so, and that has the best schools in the world, right? You know, by widely accepted metrics. And yeah, I mean, if you have a country where like most you know, most of the healthcare system is socialized through local government or whatever, and it's like, what, like, I guess if there's like a private hospital, right, they say, oh, see, you know, private healthcare and that picket sign. Like, this is, you know, anyway.
So what you're saying, it's not like Pete Buttigieg's plan. It's not like you can have wages for those who want it, healthcare for those who want it. Is that right? I'm just
yeah. I mean, this is this, again, it's like the meme that Jake was talking about with the wrestlers. It's like, you know, say, oh, well, see, you know, there's still plenty of capitalist wealth creation. There are still some options for private healthcare and education. It's like, yeah, let's institute all the stuff these places have, and let's take as much of the healthcare and education systems into national ownership as exists in these countries, and see what PragerU thinks about that.
And am I wrong in saying, I'm just trying to fact check this, but it seems like there's also a private healthcare option in Venezuela as well. Is there really no private healthcare or private education?
Well, not unlike Nathan's point about the cost and the benefits, they're allegedly doing a comparison between Venezuela and the Nordics here. I could be wrong. I'm going to make a prediction right now that we are not going to hear very many of the details about Venezuela.
Right. Like, I mean, and they're claiming that what Bernie and the squad want is Venezuela, not the Nordic countries. Never mind the fact that what Bernie is constantly talking about are policies that they have in the Nordic countries. So what specific to Venezuela policies does Bernie want?
I don't know. Nathan, as the video goes on, do we hear specific examples of Bernie supported policies that are on the books in Venezuela but not Norway?
Gosh, it's been a while since I watched it, but I am gonna put my money on no, we're not gonna hear any of that.
All right, let's find out.
Education options. Yes, the Nordic countries have an expansive welfare state, but everyone pays into the system, rich, middle class, and poor. Nobody escapes the tax man because nobody escapes the 25% value added tax. This sales tax, a tax on what you buy, is regressive, meaning it falls much more heavily, percentage of income-wise, on the poor and the middle class than it does on the rich. This concept is a complete non-starter for American socialists who want only the rich to pay more, even though America's tax system is already steeply progressive. The rich, the top 10%, pay about 70% of all income taxes. But for the socialists, it never seems to be enough. So, if the American left has rejected the Scandinavian model, which model is it embracing? Well, where do the leading figures of the American left, from Sean Penn to Michael Moore and Bill Ayers, go when they want to praise socialism? Here's a hint. When was the last time you saw Bernie?
Wait, who was the last person? Wait, who are the leading figures of the American left?
Sean Penn, Bill Ayers, and I missed the other one.
Michael Moore.
Yeah.
Bill Ayers. I really barely know who that is.
I mean, the funny thing is, I think this might be a few years older than you. Like, I mostly, I mean, he came on my radar for the same time he did everybody else's, because right wingers were constantly bringing him up in 2008. because like it's like, ooh, you know, Barack Obama, you know, is like closely connected with this, you know,
he's part of, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
this like ex-weatherman terrorist.
Okay.
And so I actually got curious and I read Ayer's memoir, Fugitive Days. He's actually a pretty good writer. I liked it. It's you know, and he's like pretty thoughtful about like some of the stuff that was stupid about, you know, what he believed in the 60s or whatever, but it's like a good, vividly written memoir. I am very skeptical about the Obama connection and the idea that Bill Ayers is one of the leading figures of the American socialist left is fucking amazing. Like that's like, yeah, because that's we all you know, we're all constantly like reading you know, Bill Ayers and Jacobin and Current Affairs, and you know, there's like and you know, I mean, I just can't watch a clip of AOC or Rashida Tlaib without them, you know, quoting Bill Ayers.
It's always WWAD, right? What would Ayers do? That's what we're
WWWAD. What would William Ayers do? Yeah, no, absolutely. Also, by the way, on the where we paused, that question on the screen, when was the last time you saw Bernie in Copenhagen? I would not be surprised if Bernie was making it like he's in Europe now, promoted his book. Like I would not be the least little bit surprised if he had to stop in Copenhagen. Like that would make sense to me. Also, when was the last time Bernie was in Venezuela? Like it says Bernie go to Caracas like more often than he goes to Copenhagen.
Maybe they have a picture. Let's see.
Bernie in Copenhagen. First, it was the Soviet Union.
No.
Then it was Cuba. Then it was Venezuela. Venezuelan socialism, like current American socialism, is based on sowing social division. The left in Venezuela divided the country not merely between the rich and the poor, but white and black or brown, between Europeans, Africans, and indigenous people. Hugo Chavez made much of his black and Indian roots. Venezuelan socialists were bringing down statues of Columbus long before American leftists did. Once you establish the villain class, taking away their wealth is not hard to do. Whatever Chavez and now his successor Nicolas Maduro wanted, they took. Or, if you care about moral clarity, they stole. Always, like the French and Russian revolutions, in the name of equality. It didn't start out that way, of course. It never does. Chavez portrayed himself as a moderate in his early presidential campaigns. Expropriations came later. What Chavez and Maduro achieved at the end of a gun, the American left would achieve through extremely high taxation on income, wealth, and inheritance.
Okay, pause.
But we shouldn't leave guns out of this discussion.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to the guns when they come back, but but I am a little bit confused because I thought part of the evidence for part of the evidence for American socialists being more like Venezuelan than Nordic leftists was that American socialists only want to tax rich people, and in the Nordics they tax everybody. And now it seems like American leftists do want to tax everybody. I feel like I'm losing the thread here.
Also, what was that bit about? Because she was saying that Norway has a regressive tax, but that implies they don't have a progressive income tax, which I feel like there's no way. We kind of let that go, but there's no way that's true, right? That they don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely have a value added tax. I don't, you know, I'm sure that's not the only tax, but it's also weird to hear PragerU say that, you know, that that like sales tax is regressive because you know, poor people end up spending a larger portion of their income on it. I mean, I'm very curious how that fits in with their views about what taxes should be here.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Are we ready to go? Are we ready to go to guns or?
Oh, well, hold on. Before that, I do just want to very briefly here. Let me do recent photo evidence of Bernie Sanders in Copenhagen.
When was the last time?
So as it turns out, it does seem like he's been there. In fact, I'm going to guess more recently than he was in Venezuela, because I see nothing in this video so far to suggest that he's ever visited Venezuela.
Yeah, we'll see if they.
Like, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with visiting Venezuela, but like, I don't think
I mean, I'd love to. I'd love to go there and hang out with what's that guy's name? There's a rapper that I really dig. He's got good politics, but I don't speak Spanish, so I only catch like half of what he says. But apparently he's like he's a pro Maduro, anti whoever the guy's in charge now. Wait,
or pro Chavez, anti Maduro.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
The problems and negatives in your life, Andy, is that you want to go to Venezuela to hang out with the pro Chavez rapper, but you don't speak enough Spanish.
Yeah. His name's like Satan 666 or something like that.
Yeah,
I gotta double check.
These are good problems to have.
Yeah, fair enough. By the way, speaking of Birdie's current European tour, that looked like an old, that was an older trip to Copenhagen. In fact, I would guess Bernie's been to Copenhagen several times. But in any case, I hope you guys saw, just as a really quick aside, the head of the Social Democratic Party in Germany made a big point of announcing that she wasn't going to go to Bernie Sanders' German book event because he'd criticized Israel bombing civilians in Gaza.
Yeah, that was pretty sickening.
It's also, I don't know, it's a little bit I think there's also some some layers of strangeness to German politicians criticizing Bernie Sanders for I don't know. I mean, it kind of sounds like, anti-Semitism is ultimately the accusation there. And it's like, given the history between Germany and the Sanders family, there's something a little odd there.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand if you're in the German government and you're like, you know what, I don't know how much criticism of Israel we could even deal with here because I don't want to risk any anti-Semitism whatsoever. But then when you're boycotting a Jewish person, I feel like that's just got to cancel out. You know what I mean? You got to just like, they got to just do the obsequious identity politics thing and just completely and just completely defer if they want to be consistent on that. But it's just, I mean, when it's literally like Bernie, comes from family that was fucking murdered, and it's pretty sickening, actually. I mean, it shows how distorted it's gotten.
Yeah, absolutely. I should say, so yeah, somebody in the chat mentions Adania Shibli, who is a Palestinian novelist who was going to be honored by a literary association in Germany, and then they canceled it. I suppose in about the same spirit as all the shit last year when like bars were like pouring Russian vodka out into the street, and the my favorite example, the World Cat Federation banned competition by Russian blues because they were mad about Russia. This Palestinian novelist was canceled because of Hamas.
I mean, it'd be like a fucking Ukrainian American saying like, "Hey, I think maybe we should push for a ceasefire," and then saying, "Hey, you're siding with Russia over Ukraine." You know what I mean? It's just complete insanity. But
anyway, let's finish this up.
In 2010, Venezuelan socialists started a campaign to disarm law-abiding citizens under the guise of stopping gun violence. They called it Desarma la Violencia. When citizens, now unarmed, began to protest the corruption and tyranny of the socialist government, Chavez and then Maduro unleashed a group of criminal thugs, the colectivos, to terrorize them. Their specific targets included small business owners, entrepreneurs, farmers, and clergy. There are no colectivos or Antifa in Scandinavia. Venezuela is now a cautionary tale. All the people you see on the news rummaging through garbage cans or standing in line to get food, toilet paper, and gas, those are the ordinary citizens. The country's leaders aren't missing any meals. The socialist elite, the so-called Chavistas, eat in fine restaurants and go on European vacations. Miraculously, it always works out that way. The American left keeps telling us they want to take us to Stockholm, but its policies point in the direction of Caracas. My birth country was once prosperous and free, but socialism destroyed it. Take heed, America. I'm Debbie D'Souza for Prager University.
So
D'Souza?
Oh yeah.
Similar to Dinesh.
This is Mrs. D'Souza.
That was a jump scare. That was a jump
Yeah.
scare at the end.
awesome. Yeah, so I guess I just want to make sure I'm following the thesis of the video and the argument that's being laid out for it. This whole thing has been about how what the American left wants is closer to Venezuela than Denmark and the other Nordics. And the evidence I heard was that they have really high taxes in the Nordics, and American leftists only want to tax rich people. So I guess middle class people don't pay high taxes in Venezuela. Although again, that was never really spelled out. The Venezuelans like knocked down Christopher Columbus statues. I guess they've still got all their Christopher Columbus statues in Copenhagen.
And there are no collectivos or Antifa in Scandinavia.
Yeah,
I'm literally looking
you know what
now.
they do have well, yeah, okay. We'll get the fact check on that in a second.
Okay.
But do you know what they do definitely have in Denmark? Really strict gun laws, right? Like how is like American leftists liking gun control supposed to make them more like Venezuela than the Nordics? I mean, like that would only work if there were really loose, like, or even looser gun laws in the Nordic countries than in Venezuela. And we never even heard any evidence of that. Also, I am looking right now at the a student's guide to resisting PragerU propaganda, and there is a relevant point here, which is, and I quote, "On taxes, it is hard to even grasp D'Souza's point. The Nordic countries do indeed have higher wealth, income, and inheritance taxes than we do, not just VAT."
What's she talking about? What's she talking about? And also the point that I guess they never understand when they make this thing. You know, there's the two routes they can take. They can either go the Nordics are socialist and they're bad, or they're actually capitalist, right? And when they take they're actually capitalist route, you can come back and just go, okay, well, all right. What if I proposed that we do all of the policies?
You can't. That's socialism.
You know. What? All right, fine. Let's have their tax structure. Okay, it hits middle class people and not just the rich. Fine, but we get the welfare state, right? Can we have that? Okay, they're fine. They don't have the minimum wage, but they have sectoral bargaining. We can have that then, right? Because that's, as you say, that's capitalist wealth creation. So it's fine. Well, there shouldn't be a problem with it. So it sounds great. Okay, fine. Capitalist wealth creation, socialist wealth distribution. Let's agree that that's a fine way to do business.
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.